I know we have about a minute, and I'm going to go ahead and start if that's okay with you guys, because I know the afternoon schedule is kind of running a little odd. So I'll go ahead and get going if that's all right with all of you. First of all, thanks for coming. I appreciate with Stoney speaking that you guys all decided to come here. That's fantastic, because I was going to listen to him. You know, it's a little bit awkward. So, Gene? I think you turned it on before you left. So, just to clarify a couple of things, my name is pronounced Gery, not Gary. And I don't care, I answer pretty much anybody with a checkbook. So, this QR, for those of you that just come in, I'm sorry, not QR, but the URL down here, this is the only thing you really need to write down. I may add some stuff to this as we go because questions come in. But this is pretty much the only thing you got to write down. That'll get you to the notes for this. It's a PDF. Everybody can download it. It's not hard to get to. It goes to our website. There's a little form there. If you don't mind filling the form out, you don't have to download it. It'd be nice to keep track of you guys and say hi every now and then, and so you can see what we're up to. Okay, let's get this party rolling. Let's see here. Maybe. Or not. Oh, too many. What's going on there? They're not on there. It's fine. It doesn't want to talk to us. Hang on just a second. Now let's try it. Ah, there we go. That's the next slide. Okay. Content. We're here to talk about content. You've actually heard about content all weekend, right? You've got to have this, you've got to have that, you need to do it this way, you need to do it that way. Well, all those guys are right. Everybody's right. What we haven't touched a lot on over the last day or so is the quality of that content. What exactly do you put in there to make sure that it's good? And who are we thinking about? We're going to try to cover all of that in a very short period of time here. Now, content, just to kind of give you an overview, I write for lots of different things. I write for television, I write for radio, I write for newspapers, I write for websites, I write for blogs. You name it, books, we do a lot of stuff with content, right? Everything is content. And content to me is this part of Dagwood's sandwich here, right? It's the part that you make the sandwich for. You don't really do it for the bread, you just eat a slice of bread. The bread to me is kind of like the design and the WordPress and all the stuff that holds that content and presents it in a really nice way. But the content is why people go there. You can have, I think somebody talked about this one in the sessions yesterday, you can have this flashy whiz-bang website that's really cool and is garbage. There's none there. People don't come back. Once they've seen it, that's it. So what we try to do is make content that people like. What is your audience like? You know, if you make them like it, you do stuff that's really high quality, it's good, they're going to come back because they're going to be happy. They come back and they're happy, you either make money, if that's the goal of your website, or they download more of your podcasts, or whatever your call to action is at the bottom. You don't know what that means, call to action? Getting them to do whatever it is you want them to do. You're going to do better. If you don't make quality content, nobody is happy. The audience is upset. The guy there is losing. Looks like it cut off the top of these slides. I hope we didn't miss any. The guy's upset. Nobody wins. Everybody's a little upset. So where does social media fit in all this? Our little tag on the end of this conversation is about social media. Because quality content is one of the things that is necessary to make your social media successful. How many of you are on Twitter? Facebook? All the others? All of these guys up here. Well, the purpose behind that, we're going to get to in just a second. How does it play in? For those of you who have a laptop, web tablet, whatever you have up, go to Google right now, please, and put in my name, first and last name. Did any of you sit in on the session this morning about building your own personal brand? Yeah. It was really good, wasn't it? Brian's a good guy. He knows what he's talking about. And we do that a lot with clients. GLD Enterprises, we do a great deal with that. So if you Google my name, do you get me first? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anybody? Yeah? You see it, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to look kind of strange to you as you go down through there because I do a lot of stuff. Right, Donna? You do. Donna knows me well. We have a lot of things out there. But the social media, the purpose behind it is to act like a signpost. Its purpose is a delivery system. It isn't the content. Someone said this morning, building micro-content. The micro-content drives everybody to the real content, the full content that you're doing on your websites, or your podcast, or whatever you're sending them to. That's what social media is for. So the social media being kind of on the first slide I had up here when you came in, being sort of the small subheader of this discussion is because it's important, but without that meaty content, that middle of the sandwich, there's no point in having a social media at all. If you have nothing to show them, if you're just tweeting out, look at my lunch today. You know, for years, I didn't understand the point of Twitter. I really did. My job is to make people's businesses sail and do marketing and book publishing and all sorts of things. And I just didn't get it. I didn't see the point. Because all you see is, who cares what Kim Kardashian is doing this week? And look at how much time my little kid spent on the pot. That wasn't what I could see a business person using. Now we figured it out. We know what to do with it. So that signpost is really a good indicator of what we're trying to do with that. Let's think about the quality of content. What are we talking about when we say quality? Well, products need quality control. Any of you ever work in manufacturing or anything like that? You've seen the folks come in at the end, right? It's all done. They're checking quality control. Sometimes people along the assembly line are doing that. Editors for books are quality control specialists. Their job is to make sure the book is good before it finally hits the shelves. All of this has to do with your quality. Your website content is your product. It is what you're selling, if you will. You may not be selling it, but whatever you're doing with it, that's what the audience wants to see. That's the point, right? So we think about quality. I'm going to use Hollywood for an example. This is what we would consider quality, right? Shawshank, pretty across the board. Everybody likes that movie. It's a good movie. Very well done. Good acting, good photography. Whatever your interest in movies is, there's good pieces of it in there. The writing is fantastic. Stephen King, right? If I remember correctly? All fantastic stuff. That's what this movie is. Quality is what this movie is, and what this one so much is not. Now, I've used this slide so many times, I just can't stop laughing at it because it's 5 different presentations. But it works because, guess what? This was incredibly successful. Can you have success with low quality or bad quality? Well, you might get away with it once. Okay, maybe twice. In a great while. Let it sink in. It was funny when I was rehearsing it. Okay, 3 times. But that's it. The 3rd time you bring out it. There's what?
Riff Tracks did it.
There's a 4th one?
The Mystery Science Theater guys.
Oh, did they do that joke?
They did Sharknado. They
4.
did Sharknado. Actually, I think it was the first one that they did, and they did a version of it where they.
Well, if you're going to get away with bad content the 3rd time, it better jump out at you. That's fine. Hashtag really bad. All right. You get the point. There is bad content out there, and sometimes people will go for it, but we're laughing at this, right? It's not something you're going to see in a major motion picture in a theater. This was made for television on purpose. It's one of sci-fi channels, little goofy things they put on Saturday. Nobody had a clue it was going to turn out like this. So what does that mean now? So this takes us to my first rule of content. And content is one of those things that I've devised, at least for our purposes, as websiters and bloggers and so on. 3 rules of content. This is the first one. Content is made for people, not search engines. When you say that to somebody who has been drilled in the head by SEO guys for the last 10 years, this is what they look like. They're shocked. What do you mean? What are people? We've got to get to the top of the Google rankings, man. What good are you? You know, we've given all we've got, Captain, and it's still not at #1. Well, who cares if it's #1? Nobody reads it. Nobody watches the video. Nobody does the podcast. Whatever it is. If it's not good, there's no point in being #1. Does that make sense? Because there are a lot of people. I have a client right now, it's a good example. There's a roofer. They wanted to be #1 in Dayton as a roofer. Do you know what it would take to get a roofer who just started out to be #1 on Google tomorrow? He really expects that's how it's going to work. It's 2 years. He spent $1,000 a month with an SEO company. $1,000 a month. Not one phone call. Nothing. And he's still on page like 4 or 5. And the problem was that when they were making the content, the developer never asked the question, what do you want to be? Because they do roofing, siding, exteriors, restoration, all these things. They do it all. You want to be everything. You can't be everything. You got to pick something. You got to make a landing page. You got to do something to get it in there. When you do this for SEO, that's what's in everybody's head. We're not thinking about once you get there, what's going to determine whether you buy their product or not. Are you going to call them to get your roof done? Whatever. Are you going to call them to get your blog read? However it works. If you do it right, you'll have a line waiting to buy your stuff. Download your podcast. Watch your video. Whatever your goal is. They will be waiting for it. But if you do it badly, obviously it doesn't go right. When was the last time you saw Google or Yahoo buy something? Did you ever see these guys standing in line at the store? No. These are not consumers. These are distribution methods. These are telephone books. Remember when you used to go to a phone book and look up somebody and there's 53 lawyers in there and you broke your leg and gosh, you got to sue somebody today. So you open that book, there they are. Dyer Garofalo, Man in Hood. And they say, buy our stuff. And they've got the biggest ad. We were Google back then. We picked and chose based on what we were looking at. Well, now we've got all these search engines, but the search engines don't buy anything. We're back to people again. I cannot stress that enough. And I'm not a favorite of a lot of SEO people because I tell them, SEO is not important. It just isn't. If you build good content and do it right, the SEO will happen naturally. You will not have to push it. You don't have to do what we're going to talk about in just a second. Which brings us to this. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, we were all told as coders, I was an HTML coder for years, we were told that you have to meta-key everything, right? You got to do meta keywords and just tag the thing all over the place. You've got this big paragraph and a header of your content on your text editor, and it's all meta tags. So if you're a roofer, you're roofing Dayton, roofing Centerville, roofing, and it's all, that's how you did it. Because that's how the search engines work. Remember web crawler and all those guys? Well, now we're down to Yahoo, Bing, Google, like any of those other two matter after Google. But what we were told to do back then was stack the deck, right? We were supposed to lean it towards, if you put more of those in there, it would be hit more often. Well, then the algorithms came along that if the website was searched more, it would be hit more often. And then Google put more restrictions on it. Finally, I've been in this business 15 years. We have never strayed from this. It's always content-based. Always. We'll still put the keywords and we still do the Google citations and all that stuff. But if the content is not good, shot loading it is not going to matter. It's not going to make any difference. Because it's still not going to get up there. You got to get people to go look at it. So in doing this, in building the website so it's people-oriented, you're driving traffic to it anyway. If you're using the social media like we talked about a minute ago, people are going to keep forwarding it around. Hey, look at this great picture that Bob just did. And it's going to get circulated. That's how stuff goes viral, not because somebody shot loaded it with keywords, right? So when we do shot loading web copy, I'm a writer at heart. We're a communications firm, but I'm a writer. That's what I do. This is what it looked like. Take a read of that for a second. How many times do the words carnival lamps show up? And believe it or not, there are still people telling you to do this. You'll never make it to the number one, you're not going to make it to the number one slot. Nobody knows what the heck a carnival lamp is. I actually looked it up. I don't know what it is either. This is a real piece of copy. All I did was change names in the email address. That's a real copy. So if we redo something like this, imagine a whole web page. A whole web page. At lunch I was sitting with some folks and we were talking about clients, and I have an attorney client who has a website built on Joomla. And he wants me to take it over. And the interesting thing is the first page is a little bit about his firm, and then everything else is thank you to the web developer who did it for free because he's a client. They traded. So there's this junk, and it's like this. He did the same thing. He put like, he's in workers' comp law. So workers' comp law shows up about 10 times in the course of a paragraph and a half. It's ridiculous. So he wants me to take it over. So if I were going to change this and just stick to this type of format, I haven't rewritten anything really, but to make it more user-friendly, this is one option. It's half the words, it keeps the purpose, and it will still show up on search engines. My guess is that carnival lamps are something that are so specific, you'll probably get there anyway. For those of you that Googled my name, Google it one more time and put the word bullwhip after it. I want to show you something.
What word after?
Bullwhip. B-U-L-L-W-H-I-P. You probably saw some of this. It came up. You didn't even have to. Because back in the day, the way I got into entertainment, some of you saw the video that we did with Dustin Hartzler, one of the organizers on Living Dayton this week. I got into that business because of sideshow work, stage work, entertainment work. And my website for our whip training studio comes up the first time. You can do a Google search for bullwhip lessons and we're #1. That's amazing. How did you do that? How many other bullwhip training centers do you know of? It's not that hard. It's all relative to what you do. If you're a lawyer for workers' comp and you're trying to be #1 on the search engine, good freaking luck to you. It's just hard to do. It can be done. It's just really, really tough. But it's going to get started like something like this. All right, let's keep going. You've got to speak to your audience. All these kind folks are waiting around for something neat to happen. What are you going to give them? Who has a website already? I want to keep this discussion thing tight. Yes, ma'am. What kind of website do you have? And if you can't tell us what kind it is, that's fine.
What kind, like?
What type of website? What's the purpose of it? What's the purpose of it?
Just to share information about my company.
Okay, so you're sharing information. Do people have an opportunity to contact you through that, to buy from you later, or whatever,
Yes.
to collect information, anything like that? All right, so it's a basic business orientation type thing. Okay, any different than that? Yes?
Well, it's not, but blah, blah.
One more time.
It's for a web series that I'm producing.
Okay.
So I don't.
Video, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know if that would be under the same type.
No, it's different. It's different. It's more creative, a little bit different. Anybody different from those two? Yes?
Working on a
Photography website. Okay, that's a little bit more like yours. You have a book,
I have a
correct?
book.
You're trying to sell a book.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yes, sir?
Affiliate marketing.
Affiliate marketing, that's interesting. You don't hear that a lot anymore. That's pretty good. You guys know what affiliate marketing is? You sell a lot of stuff that you don't have to do anything with. And you get money for it. It's awesome. It's really very good. My website's covered with that stuff, so just don't buy stuff from there if you don't want to. But you got to talk to that audience. You guys know, because of the type of WordPress sites or websites you have, what kind of audience you're trying to reach. Speak to them. It's in the language. Okay? You got to tell them what's in it for them. We use something called benefit-focused language. Do you know what that means? Essentially, the old marketing adage is, don't tell us the features of your product, tell us how it will benefit us as consumers. And when I'm saying consumer product, all that, please realize I'm also talking about readers to your blog, people that you want to sign up to get your podcast, whatever. They are consumers. You can take the business out of this all you want to, but it really barrels down to, you got to use the same marketing tactics that McDonald's does, or Prudential Insurance, or whoever. The mentality is the same. What's in it for them? Benefits focused will make people love your stuff, because it makes it feel like that you're talking to them and you're saying, we really want to help you with this. That's where our quality of our content comes through. That's where the social media stuff will pay off, because you're telling them little tidbits. Hey, we're doing this week. We're doing a free whatever. We're giving this away. Come on down to Bubba's house and this and buy it. We're going to give you 2 for 1, whatever. That's what that mentality is. But a benefits-focused thing would be the guy with the carnival lamps, for example. What will the carnival lamp do for the person who buys it? It'll really show off your display space, or it'll, something that's oriented to the buyer, or to the reader, or to the viewer, whatever that happens to be, and spoken in a language that they understand. All right, we're up to content rule number 2. Put your logo everywhere you can. That's not it. Content rule number 2 is actually very, very simple. It has to do with, make sure I'm on the right slide. Yeah. It has to do with the type of content that you have. Now, I'm speaking as a writer, but we have all kinds of content. We have video content, we have audio content. There's probably infographics, things like that, right? You probably have a mixture on your websites. But all content is written content. Why do you think I say that? Anybody?
Google search.
Google search? More basic even than that.
Communication.
Close. You have to start somewhere. The most amateur video you see on YouTube is one where somebody just grabbed the camera and it starts out with these words. Hold my beer while I try this. And it gets 1 million views. Because it's probably something really stupid coming after that phrase. Hold my beer and watch this. I think that's probably the dumbest thing I've ever seen in a kerplop. He's got $10,000 on America's Funniest Videos. If Joe Bob had just thought it through for a minute, waited till he was not drunk anymore, and tried the stunt, he might have survived. But, you know, an ATV into an upright swimming pool on top of the ground probably isn't going to work no matter how you do it. But let's just say you are making a good podcast, you know, all that stuff. You have to start out with a written plan to do it well. No matter what anybody says, the internet is spontaneity. You can talk to all the 20-year-olds you want. I realize I'm an old fart around here. I'm looking around and holy cow, I feel like an old guy. But you have to start with a plan. Text, podcast, video, audio, whatever you're doing, if you write it out first, even if it's just a basic outline so you have something to follow, it'll get you from point A to point B. I think Daniel spoke about this morning. He was talking about podcasts. And he mentioned that having some kind of an outline to go from will get you there faster. It'll look better, it'll sound better, it'll sound like you know what you're talking about instead of you just pinging off the walls. And it will save you a double of time in editing. Right? Making a video that you planned out. Why do you think people write a script before they try to shoot a movie? Forget about Sharknado? Right? That's why. It's planning. You have to have a plan. The worst content, the content that doesn't do anything, and you hear about the ones that, I just did this in 5 minutes and now I'm a web diva. Okay, that's 1 in 100 million. And it's an accident. And it's probably something train wreck-ish. Don't count on that. If you really want to be taken seriously, if you would like to be a professional, if you would like to be seen as someone like what JD was talking a little while ago about people being taken as experts in their field, you need to make it look like you thought it out. If you just, hold my beer and watch this, you don't know what's going to happen after that. And I can't use that joke anymore, that's 3 times. If you don't plan, things go terribly wrong. What can go wrong with a nice video that you didn't plan? You're going to shoot it, you're going to waste a lot of time. What did you say, Daniel? 1 to 8 on video? It's an hour to make it and 8 hours of editing.
Yeah.
Imagine if you didn't write any of that down. Probably doubles. Because then you got all the junk going on, the cat jumped up on your thing while you're doing your video, everything goes horrible wrong. That's what happened here. This guy should have really thought about where he was going to park. Did he know they were going to put a hole there? I don't think so. So you got a little bit of trouble. Which brings us to content rule number 3. And these aren't really hard. Oh. These aren't really hard. This is going to be a retread for my Western Ohio Writers Association people right here, because I used part of this in a presentation a couple weeks ago. But edit and proofread. These are not the same things. And I'm starting from the written part. We haven't shot a video or recorded a second of audio yet. Edit and proofread. If you're a blogger, if you're writing content for your material that's written down, this. Now, here's the other thing you need to remember. These are not the same things. People think editing, oh, that means, especially if you're writing a book, editing means I gotta make sure I don't have any grammar problems. No, it doesn't. Let's talk about that. Editing is when you check your material for accuracy, continuity, viability, its usability, the audience interest. We're looking at the storyline of what you've written, so to speak. Okay? At this point, we don't care about punctuation and grammar and all that. We're not looking at that. We're looking at, if you're telling let's say you have a blog about parent things. You're doing stuff for moms, kids, whatever, and you're talking about an event that happened with your child. And it's a story. It's got an arc. It's got a start, middle, and end. If you read through it, does it? Or are you just yammering on about your kid jumping up and down on the sofa? Well, if the kid jumped up and down on the sofa, ran his head through the tile on the ceiling, that would be entertaining. Probably not for the kid, but you see what my point. There's got to be some kind of story right there. How did it end? What was the moral of it? What was the reason you're telling us about it? It's got to be relevant. It needs to be relevant to the audience. And this will get you there. Now, proofreading and proofing, this isn't just proofreading, but video, audio, the same thing. Before you hit that send button, I realize that we all think, we've been talking about WordPress, we have complete control over our websites, right? Sure, whatever you want to think. But I've had things ripped off of my website within 3 minutes. And then I realized, oh my God, that's wrong. We have to fix that. Because I didn't take that next step. Proofing is going back over it one more time. This is when you're looking for grammar, typo, punctuation, spelling errors on written stuff. Audio, maybe it's a tick in the background that's really annoying as you listen to it. Is there any way to filter that out? Can we get rid of this? Video, the lighting is not good. Does your software bring the lighting up? Is there anything you can do to fix it? Okay, and if it's really that bad, and you've been through an editing and a proofreading process, this is the last thing you do. You maybe edit it twice. You get to this part, if you can't fix it, chuck it, start over. It will be worth it in the long run. Okay? The other thing is, these two, I don't think I put this in the slides, but these two things should be done by someone other than you, if you have the opportunity. I realize we're all, again, we're back to that immediacy. I've got to get it online. I'm behind, Nancy Drew over here, who's got 53 blogs. I've only done 3. Well, Nancy Drew also has no punctuation. She uses comma splices and dangling whatevers, and just, that's why she can do 53 of these things, okay? Take the time, it will pay off. Now, this is why we do this. All these little things I'm talking about, quality, the little things that you do to try to repair it, to fix it, to make it better, this is why. This has to do with your credibility. Have you read it? My favorite thing is that the last time I used this slide, people went right past this and caught it there. Okay? They caught it there. It's not going to work. People aren't going to buy it. I think this is very superficial and silly, and it's not a quality control issue. It's you're just being nitpicky. No, I'm not. If it's that bad, there's probably other problems too. You have to really pay attention to this. All right. Before you hit that button, what is the first thing you're going to do? Read it again. Listen to it again. Watch it again. And then you can do it again. And then you getting it? 3 or 4 times is probably not enough, but you have to stop somewhere too. If you have a little bit of an OCD about it, it's got to be perfect. You can't be perfect. It's got to be as perfect as it can get. So there is a line to quality. You want to do the best job you possibly can, but don't hold up your product. Because, again, if you spend so much time trying to be perfect, you'll never get anything out, whether it's written, audio, video, whatever that is. All right, so the end result of this is, and this is kind of the moral of the story, high quality, audience-focused content drives SEO and generates better social media response. You will get following. You will get people following you. You will get people asking you questions. You'll be part of the conversation. I would hope that contributors to WordPress, to all the things that we hear around here over the weekend, that everybody's thinking about that when they're posting, when they're sending stuff out. God knows we're all sitting here on Twitter this weekend because we want to be part of the conversation. That's kind of the point. That's a little bit different. But if you're doing something in your business, something like that, take the time and make it count. So that's all on these I have, but I'd like to answer some questions if you have them. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I know at the beginning you said it's not just dependent on like Google Words or the keyword thing.
Right.
But you also said you do use that sometimes.
Of course, it's still in there. I mean,
and where do you get those words?
Well, in WordPress, since we're speaking about WordPress, you can do this in the actual HTML coding if you have somebody to do that as well. You still use the keyword tags. Those are still available. But in WordPress, you have categories and tags. And a category is kind of like they spoke about this yesterday in one of the sessions. I forget which one. They're talking about categories. It's kind of like the overview. Say you're talking. I think Nate talked about this. Let's say he's talking about sports. He's posting a sports blog, and it has to do with the March Madness. So he would have a tag for March Madness or UD or whatever, and that would drive him to sports, but then narrow it even further.
The tag is the narrow?
The tag narrows it a little.
Okay.
It's a little more complex than that, but
that's a very good explanation.
That's the basics. It works a little differently than that. But that's a pretty good start. There are other ways you can use those as well. Other questions? Bullets of answers. Well, while you think of a question, I'll tell you a little more about why I'm even here. GLE Enterprises is a communications company, public relations, marketing, and IT, and we do a lot of work with publishing. We do a lot of work with authors. We spend a lot of time trying to get our customers' web presence to look right. But we look at it across the board. It's called cross-platform marketing, where we actually do the content. We're sort of specialists in content marketing. So we do a public relations piece that also turns into a part of a newsletter, which also turns into part of their web blog, which turns into their social media, and it's all one big package. It all goes together. So those things, you can read all about that on the website if you take the time to do it. But essentially what we do for helping with WordPress is all of our sites are WordPress based now. And again, if you went through and looked at some of the material I gave you on the back of the business card, or the Google searches that you did, if you found my name, you'll find all of our websites, and this is just our business page. But I'm involved in a lot of things, including Dayton WordPress. And we're just trying to, give you more outlets. Everybody's talking very technical. This has more to do with the content, the meat of your website. And it's important. We'll probably expand this a little bit next time. And we'll do some of these at the meetup too, and go into a little more detail on which pages belong on what, how you put things in there, and how you check for that quality as well. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I know we had a really good conversation yesterday, but one thing I was thinking, I'm a young writer and I'm just literally just getting myself out there so that people know my work. But what advice would you have for me as somebody who does creative, technical writing, and then also does tutoring? As
far as separating all that stuff?
No, just making my work known.
Well, how to put it out there?
Yeah.
How to get it out there. That's actually a good question. Her question focuses around, if you have a lot of different things that you do, and you would like to create a sort of brand for yourself, and what kind of material do you put out for that as sort of examples or content that you release that has to do with what you do? That is not something that can get a flat answer, because it depends on what type of work you're doing. In your case, I know a little bit about you. You're doing creative writing, you're also doing technical writing, you're doing acting, you're doing some other things. All those in together, find out which things kind of go together. And you would build a page based on those to go side by side. My suggestion on top of that was, for your domain name, we were talking with Ryan earlier today, he mentioned having your own personal domain name. That can be your landing page. And on your landing page, you can have other buttons to send them to the things that they're specifically interested in. So they can see it if they want. If not, that's fine. And if you ask 10 of us, you're going to get 10 different answers. But that's my answer.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways to do that. But I should speak to writers for just a minute. If you do write, if you have a book, if you have whatever, be very, very careful. I can't go back to the editing and proofing and the good content more than for writers, because I deal with a lot of writers. And the issue that I see is they're so, I've got to get it out there, that they don't realize that if you get one thing out there the first time and it's bad, you may lose that audience indefinitely. You will not be able to get them back. We have a really rough society when it comes to creative consumption. They will not give you a second chance. If you put garbage out, they're not going to come back. That's it. You've had your chance. So the organization that I run, the Western Ohio Writers Association, we put together an anthology. 11 stories. Publisher wanted it. Okay, fine, but we're going to edit it. It's a small publishing house. I only have one editor. So it took 2 years to get the book out. But you know what? It got the only review one big reviewer did for anthologies ever, and she loved it. She called out different stories, she called out different authors. We got a fantastic response on it. And the interesting part about that is that it was because we took the time to do the content well and did not release it online ahead of time. You can build up interest in a book by releasing a part of a chapter or something like that. That's fine. But if it's not absolutely good, ready to go to press, don't put it out there. And self-publishing is wonderful. This is a whole different conversation. Self-publishing is great, but talk to somebody who understands the differences and what things you need to do to decide whether should I give this to an agent or should I go through self-publishing. If you have an agent that is not submitting your book to publishers, dump them. If they're charging you money, dump them. It has to do with this quality again. They should not be charging you money to get your book out there. They get money when you sell. That's the point. That's all I'm going to say about that. But. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Breaking into freelance writing,
Yes.
trying to get articles.
Don't ever do it. Don't do it. But if you insist, go ahead.
Why would you,
It's a hard job.
Yeah.
It's a very hard job. If you have to depend on it for a living, like I have done for the last 10 years, it is very difficult.
what if you don't? What
If
wanna
you
do
just
it
want to do it,
for pleasure, and make a little money, but
you make
not.
a little money. You will make a little money.
No.
So let me sideline that. You will make a little money. You're not going to make a lot of money. I mentioned, I think it's on the thing they stuck up for all of us on the WordPress website. I have a Pulitzer nomination. In fact, a lot of good that does me in this room, but it looks good. They got me an extra $10 an hour when I do a PR piece. So, big deal. It's a hard job because you're going to do a lot of things for free. And then once you've done that, you can't charge them. That same customer, you're not going to be able to charge them. But you did this for free last week. At some point, you're going to, if you want to build up your portfolio, your writing has a value. If you're a writer of any salt at all, it has a value, and you can use that to leverage more work. And the idea we've been talking about today a little bit, there are a lot of freelancers come to this. Web developers, photographers, all sorts of things. And if people don't value what you do and they don't want to pay you for it, see ya.
What's your thoughts on, like, if you want to, like photojournalism, where you want to write an article, maybe like a do-it-yourself thing, and provide a photo and a story, and submit it on your own to it. How do you learn more about how to go about that process?
Read the publication that you want to submit to, whether it's online or print, read it.
Okay.
Know as much as you can, know their style, know the type of photography they do, know the type of writing they do. Do they contribute to AP style, or do they use standard MLA? What do they do?
Right.
Look at the writing style, look at the language. Are they third grade, which is most newspapers? They're going to tell you it's 8th grade, but it's not, it's 3rd grade. Or is it, you know, the Harvard Law, which by the way is only junior high school level. Everybody thinks the Harvard Law Review is this, they're full of crap. I don't care. I've written 3 or 4 things and edited 4 of them, and it's just not good. But you have to be able to think of how you put all this together. You know the publication before you start submitting, and know their submissions. You know, their guidelines are going to be on their website if they take submissions at all. If you want to do an article like that, that would be a great idea for a blog page of your own. You know, but again, make sure it's good. That starts building your credibility. Do stories you want to do. If you have a neighborhood that you are in and you know people, and there's an interesting human interest story there, go write it. Look up, get a copy of the AP style book so that you know how journalism style is done. And if you have an English professor, an English major, or anybody who has an English degree, ignore them completely and don't put the comma after the end. Leave off the Chicago style comma, that's okay. But it's a hard job. Freelance writing is not something I recommend people go into to support themselves. If they've got a good background and they want to launch into it, do it while you're doing something else, and then you build up your thing. We actually do entire workshops on what we call commercial writing, which is what freelancers do. So it has to do with web content, journalism, all that sort of stuff.
Thank you.
Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
To kind of go along with what he was talking about, how do you feel about writer's market tools?
Like the book, the Writer's Digest books?
Yeah.
They're fantastic, but they're a lot of legwork. Just remember that. And any time you're breaking into, what she's talking about is the Writer's Market is a series of books that help you find agents, they help you find places to submit as a freelancer, they help you learn about things like this, content, whether you're going web or print or whatever, because there's different guidelines to some extent. The books are great. They're just a lot of work. You can come to the Western Ohio Writers Association. We do workshops. Yeah. But we base those workshops on what people are doing now. Writer's Digest tends to, or the Writer's Market book is usually outdated after about 4 months of its publication. So if you're going to do it, do the online version, buy the subscription. It's a lot cheaper and you have access to everything. They are really very good. It's just a lot of work. You got to submit yourself. It'll teach you how, but you have to do everything on your own.
Okay, I just bought some books too.
That's okay. That's all right. Just you know, you got to check and make sure where they send you is still active.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I would just like to share, I mean, I wrote my book 3 years ago. It's one of 3, it's a trilogy. And it is a struggle. I have an agent. But my agent, my contract with him is he gets 15% when he sells it. I have not given him one.
That's how it's supposed to go.
And it is a hard sell. because it's controversial.
Mhm.
But I went to like a writers conference and they talked about, you know, it's really hard to get an agent. Well, I got an agent like that through networking. But
Well, you're doing that. That's one thing really interesting. I love that everybody is here because one of the things we're all doing is talking to each other. Writers, coders, web developers, even photographers. We tend to be introverts. You know, we want to have the lamp over us and a little computer. And that's all. It used to be typewriters for me. That was all. That's what we want to do. We don't want to be out. But there's a few of us who need that. I do better with referrals than I do with trying to advertise. My business is a waste of money to advertise because nobody's going to do it. We're business to business. I can't help most of you unless you have a business or have contacts.
Yeah.
So in this instance, you've gotten out and tried to talk to people and started networking. That's really important. That goes, I keep going back to the quality of this stuff. As you get to know people and get more involved in things, your quality will improve.
And I did spend, though, about $2,000 on a professional editor. And what you were talking about before about the content is so important because, yeah, she did the proofing for grammar, but we did it in Word, and she would write these comments, and she would say things like, Bonnie, I have no idea who's in this room, that you're talking about something.
That's
I don't
what an
even know
editor
who's in
does.
that room.
That's right. So she
And
was doing
a
what she was
good
supposed
editor
to.
will do that.
And I don't recommend the editor proof it. You get somebody else to proof it.
I agree, because
Yeah.
she didn't pick up on all.
And she's not going to. It's not her
Don't you have
job.
a technical writer?
Pardon?
Don't you have a technical writer usually proof it?
You can, yeah, you can call it that. Essentially, they're looking for the grammar and the technical stuff.
Actually, I had a
mechanics.
nun proof it for that.
You had a nun proof it?
Yes, she was a teacher. She had been a teacher. at
Oh,
that
that's a
point.
good one to
She's
use.
She did.
Where did you get this comma? Whack!
She's about this tall. She's sweet.
It's the little ones that are scariest.
Yeah.
Catholic school stories are not allowed right now.
Oh, I love it.
Anyone else have a question? I think we're out of time. I don't want to hold you up. Yes, real quick.
The script that you put up about the lamp, that
Mhm.
you kept repeating.
Yeah.
Now that looked like a typical SEO
Yes.
driven, go find
It was
your
real.
keyword.
It was real.
But it seems like to some extent the idea of finding keywords and their process about which keywords for your business gets the most hit,
Mhm.
you still should do that, I think. I mean, even
Well, that's why you do the content the way it is, and you go out and Google some things to find out what other people are looking for. Find out what people are asking for, and then kind of base it on that. If you're new to the business, because there's very little we all do that somebody hasn't already done. And you can find out who comes up first. Why do they come up first? Go look at their source code. Look at, there are a lot of ways to do that. But yes, absolutely, you still do that. You just don't show everybody.
yeah.
It's different. That's all I have, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.